Desmond Tutu was born in 1931 in Klerksdorp, a small mining town in the Northwest Province. His father was a teacher, his mother a domestic worker. When he was 12 years old, his family moved to Johannesburg. Tutu would spend some of his high school years living in Sophia town. This is where he met activist priest Trevor Huddleston, who would become one of his mentors. In 1953, Tutu became a teacher. 2 years later, he left the teaching profession in protest of the Bantu Education Act of 1953. The act instituted the then government's policy of inferior education to black school children. During his years studying teaching, Tutu met Nomalizo Liyashengane, a teacher, nurse, and social justice activist. He would marry her in 1955, and they had 4 children together: Trevor, Mpho, Nontombi, and Thandeka. Soon after quitting as a teacher, Desmond Tutu embarked on a new and very different career path: to become a servant of the God he so loved. A few years later, Tutu enrolled at St. Peter's Seminary and was ordained a priest in 1961. A year later, in 1962, Tutu went to King's College in London to study for a master's degree in theology. From 1967 to 1970, Tutu was a chaplain and lectured in theology at Forte University in the Eastern Cape Province and later in Lesotho. Tutu would use his religious platform to speak out against the injustices of apartheid. Apartheid was a system of legalized racism. He insisted that racial segregation was against God's will.
The Bible is radical in the original sense that it goes to the root. It is the most revolutionary thing there is around. It is one of the most subversive things that you can ever have when there is injustice and oppression and exploitation.
In 1975, Tutu became the first black dean of the Anglican Church in Johannesburg. 2 years later, he would become the church's first black bishop. In that same year, Bishop Desmond Tutu would have a sense of foreboding that something terrible was about to happen. He feared there would be bloodshed. He didn't ignore that heavy feeling. Instead, he penned an open letter to the then Prime Minister, John Vorster. He pleaded with him to abandon apartheid. His letter was ignored. 3 months after writing that letter, the Soweto uprisings broke out. That period changed the face of the struggle against the monstrous apartheid system.
Here's a priest. Here's the man of the cassock who defined himself not on his cassocks, not only in his, pastorly ring or the stick that bishops carry. No, he threw that away and he came down to the level of us as children. Remember, it was Bishop Tutu and who summoned other priests for the funeral of Hector Peterson. That was at, Regina Mundi. It was Bishop Tutu who would say, if we are marching as students of the day, we'll be in the front and tell the police, kill me first. Shoot me. Shoot me, then we'll then get into these kids. Last time I heard of a person like that was Jesus Christ.
The violence has escalated to the point where I think quite a lot of the young people, black young people, have become almost reckless in their disregard for their own life.
During the worst of times, Desmond Tutu remained a voice of reason. On one occasion, he saved the life of a man who was accused by an angry crowd of being a police informer. Tutu pleaded with the crowd to let the man leave. They listened, only to set his car alight.